My name is Elise, and before all of this happened, I used to think my street was the safest place in the world. I had picked this neighborhood because it was quiet, well lit, filled with old trees, and had just the right mix of retirees and young families. I imagined I'd finally found peace, stability, the kind of place where people say good morning and really mean it. But I was wrong, because peace doesn't live on a street where someone is determined to destroy your life. And in my case, that someone lived just 2 doors down. Her name was Marlene. Marlene had a perfect lawn, 3 little dogs with matching collars, and a smile so polished it felt manufactured. At first, she came off as friendly, almost too friendly. Cookies when I moved in, help with trash days, a little too eager to know if I was seeing anyone, or why I worked from home, or how I could afford my place alone. I laughed it off, until the laughter stopped, because one day, without warning, everything changed, and it started with a rumor. No one ever tells you how fragile a reputation can be, how one whisper, one twisted version of the truth, can unravel the life you've worked so hard to build. It started small. I'd step outside to water the garden and notice the neighbors turning their heads away. Conversations that used to pause politely when I walked by now just stopped completely. No eye contact. No waves. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe they were just busy, but then came the looks, the stares, the tilted heads, and tight-lipped smiles. And then someone from the HOA board left a note on my porch. "We hope you're getting the help you need, Elise. If there's anything we can do, let us know. We've all been concerned." I froze. What help? What were they talking about? I hadn't asked anyone for anything. I hadn't spoken to most of my neighbors beyond the usual polite exchanges. What were they concerned about? And then it hit me. Madeleine, she must have been saying something that twisted the truth just enough to make me look unstable. You see, a few weeks earlier, I had gone through a hard time. My mother had passed away unexpectedly. We were close, and I hadn't handled it well. I took a few weeks off work. I stayed inside more than usual. I cried a lot. Grief looks different on everyone, but apparently mine looked like crazy. I remember one day I sat on my front steps with an old photo album in my hands, just flipping through the pages. It was my mom's birthday. I was barely holding it together. Marlene had walked by and paused. "Everything all right, Elise?" I looked up, tears on my face, and nodded. I didn't say much. I just said I missed my mom. She said nothing, just smiled, tight and strange, then walked away. That must have been the day she decided to start her little campaign, because after that, it snowballed. Neighbors began avoiding me altogether. The woman across the street, who once brought me banana bread, suddenly pulled her kids inside every time I came out. A few teenagers spray painted the word crazy on my mailbox one night. And worst of all, my landlord, yes, I was renting the place at the time, called me. "We received a couple of complaints about erratic behavior," he said. "Just making sure everything's okay." I felt sick, humiliated, angry, trapped. This wasn't just gossip. This was sabotage. I decided to confront her. I knocked on her door, heart racing, fists clenched. She opened it with that same plastic smile. "Elise, what a surprise. Everything okay?" I stared at her. "You've been telling people I'm mentally unstable." Her expression didn't even change. "I'm sorry you feel that way. You're turning the whole street against me." She tilted her head, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "I'm not turning anyone, dear. People are just worried." There it was, the gasp, the fake concern. I wanted to scream, but instead, I turned and walked away. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. But something inside me shifted that day. I realized that if she wanted a war, I'd give her one. Only I wasn't going to yell or scream or scratch her car or leave notes. No. I was going to dismantle her reputation the same way she tried to destroy mine. Quietly, strategically, thoroughly. She thought I was weak because I didn't fight back right away. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I started documenting everything, every odd interaction, every dirty look, every passive-aggressive comment. I kept a digital journal with dates, times, and screenshots of neighborhood chat threads where Marlene would make vague comments like, "Some people just aren't emotionally fit to live alone." She never said my name. Of course. That's how people like her operate. Always indirect, always concerned, but everyone knew who she meant. So I watched, I waited, And I planned. See, what Marlena didn't know was that I used to work in PR. Before switching to remote branding consulting, I spent 7 years learning how narratives are crafted and how they're toned down. She was playing checkers, I was playing chess. Step 1, learn her pattern. Marlene loved attention. She thrived on praise. She posted everything online, from her sunset wine glasses to her generous donations to local shelters. She was a community figure, the type of woman who lived for the HOA newsletter spotlight. So I started leaving comments on her posts. Kind ones, "This is beautiful. Marlene, I'd love to know more about how you manage so much while also supporting the neighborhood." She replied with a heart emoji. Then I commented again and again until I got a DM. "You're so sweet, Elise. Sorry about all the confusion lately. People just worry, you know." I didn't reply. I just smiled, because now I had a thread. I started digging. I created a burner account, one that looked like a potential client or new neighbor, and followed Marlene's every post. That's when I saw it. She wasn't just involved in local events. She was trying to run for HOA president in the upcoming neighborhood elections. That was her goal all along. Power, control, image. And I realized her biggest fear wasn't me. It was embarrassment. She didn't want to be questioned, doubted, or God forbid exposed. So I found a way to make sure the truth saw daylight on her own stage. I went to a local printing shop and created a small flyer for the neighborhood bulletin board. It was anonymous and simple. No accusations, no slander, just a question. What happens when the loudest voice on our street spreads lies about mental health? Let's talk about compassion over gossip. Let's talk about integrity before elections. I signed it to neighbor who's had enough. People talked. You could feel it in the air. I started seeing neighbors, again people who hadn't made eye contact with me in weeks, start to glance my way with hesitation. Then sympathy. Then Marlene knocked on my door. She looked rattled. "Elise, did you put that flyer up?" I looked her in the eye and replied, "No, but whoever did has a point." She blinked, tightened her jaw. "You're trying to ruin my chances." I tilted my head, mimicking her tone from weeks ago. "I'm not trying anything, Marlena. People are just concerned." She stormed off. Election night came. Marlena arrived at the HOA meeting in a floral blazer, her hair perfect, her expression confident but tense. The community center was full. Folding chairs creaked. Coffee and cookies sat untouched on a table in the back. People were whispering. A few stood up and asked questions about her past behavior. One woman raised her hand and asked directly, "Did you spread a rumor about a grieving neighbor being unwell?" Marlena froze. She laughed nervously. I was just concerned for her well-being at the time. That's all. But the room didn't buy it. Someone else said, "Concern is one thing. Telling the entire block she was unstable, that's cruelty." She lost badly. A retired teacher named Mrs. Jennings was elected instead, a woman known for listening more than speaking. When the meeting ended, I started walking home. That's when I saw her, Marlena, standing outside, arms crossed, watching me. "You planned this?" she snapped. "You turned everyone against me." I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just said, "You did that all on your own, Marlena." After that night, things shifted. The same neighbors who once avoided me started saying hello again. Someone left fresh cookies on my porch. The teen who vandalized my mailbox, his dad came over to apologize and replaced it himself. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. I started a small local project to help others struggling with grief and mental health in silence. I hosted an open porch session every Saturday where people could stop by, chat, connect. It grew. The local paper even did a small piece on me, turning grief into grace. One woman's journey through gossip and growth. And Marlena, she moved away 3 months later. No goodbye, no final jab. She simply vanished from the place she once tried to control. It's funny how quickly people turn on you when they believe the wrong story. But it's even more powerful when you take the narrative back and show them who you really are. Marlene told everyone I was crazy. She whispered. She smiled. She acted concerned. But in the end, the truth was louder, and I made her regret it in front of the whole street.